Pull a house key out of your pocket right now and look at it sideways. You've slid that key into a lock thousands of times and never once asked what the zigzag along its edge is actually for. Those bumps and valleys aren't decoration. They're not random. They're a 5-digit code. 5 spring-loaded pins inside the lock are reading that code every time you turn it. They're reading it in less than a second. The story of how a Connecticut bank vault designer turned a 4,000-year-old Egyptian invention into the brass pattern in your pocket. That's exactly the kind of story we chase. Here's the reason why. Walk to wherever you keep your house keys and pick one up. Hold it flat on your palm and look down the long edge. There's a zigzag pattern of cuts, peaks, and valleys, specific depths, in a specific order. You've never paid attention to the exact pattern. You don't need to. Your hand learned the silhouette of your particular key years ago. Slide it in, the lock turns, you walk through the door. The shape feels random, like an engineer just made a wavy line on a piece of brass. It isn't random at all. Every cut means something specific, and the system that decodes those cuts is hiding inside the lock. 5 pieces of metal you'll never see. To understand what your key is actually doing, you have to look at what it's pushing against. Inside any standard house lock, there's a brass cylinder. Drilled into that cylinder are 5 tiny holes. In each hole sits a pair of metal pins, separated horizontally, a top pin and a bottom pin, held down by a small spring. When the cylinder is at rest, those pin pairs straddle the gap between the rotating part of the lock and the fixed housing. The lock can't turn. It's mechanically frozen in place. Now slide a key into the slot and the geometry changes. The cuts on the key push each pair of pins up by a specific amount, very precisely. Here's where it gets surprising. Each cut on your key has to lift its corresponding pin pair to exactly one height. The height where the boundary between the top pin and the bottom pin lines up with the gap inside the cylinder. Lift all 5 pin pairs to their correct heights at once, and a hidden line forms across all 5 pin stacks. The cylinder rotates. The bolt slides back. You walk into your house. The depths the cuts have to be aren't random. They're chosen from a small set of numbered positions, usually digits 0 through 9, 10 possibilities per cut. Your key isn't a shape at all. It's a canoed digit number, carefully written in plain brass. But none of this was new in 1861. The pin tumbler concept goes back 4,000 years. Wooden versions show up in ancient Egyptian tombs, securing granaries and temple gates. The Romans miniaturized it into bronze. But for thousands of years, the lock stayed big and wooden, only protecting buildings. Nobody had figured out how to shrink it small enough to fit on a household door, with a flat key thin enough to carry in a pocket. That changed when a Connecticut bank vault designer named Linus Yale Junior filed a patent in 1860. He took the 4,000-year-old Egyptian idea, miniaturized the pins, flattened the key, and turned the lock you've used your whole life into a brass and spring instrument. Take a blank, a key shape with no cuts yet, and clamp it into a key-cutting machine. The machine reads a 5-digit code. Each digit is a depth. 0 is no cut at all. 9 is the deepest cut the manufacturer allows. The cutting wheel grinds each position to its assigned depth, in order, from shoulder to tip. 10 possible depths across 5 positions gives 100,000 theoretical key codes. In practice, manufacturers restrict the patterns. Adjacent cuts can't differ by too much, or your finger would catch when you pulled the key out of the lock. The real number of unique keys ends up around 20,000 for any given keyway design. 20,000 combinations. Most people don't realize the 5-digit code that opens their house is sometimes printed directly on the key itself. Look at the head of a Schlag or a Kwikset key in good light. There's often a tiny number stamped near the top. That's the bidding code. Anyone who reads it can have an exact duplicate cut at any hardware store. Locksmiths can read the bidding from a clear photo of the key, even at an angle. Security researchers have decoded keys from photos taken across a room. The 5 digits that protect your house are visible to anyone who knows where to look, which is why pros cover the teeth of their keys whenever a camera is anywhere around. When you're standing on your porch fishing the key out of your pocket, what you're holding is a piece of brass that carries a 5-digit number. 5 depths, in 5 specific positions, in 1 specific order. The order matters more than the metal. If your key were lost and someone had only the digits, they could cut a perfect duplicate from a blank in under a minute. The number is the key. The brass is just the carrier. Most people couldn't recite the 5 digits that protect their home if you ask. They've used the code thousands of times without ever reading it. The shape is more memorable than the number, but the number is what does the work. There's a strange thought to sit with. The thing in your pocket right now, the small piece of brass you reach for without looking, is a 5-digit number. Linus Yale Junior's patent in 1861 is the reason it's that small. The Egyptians 4,000 years ago are the reason it works at all. 5 spring-loaded pins inside your front door are quietly waiting for your specific number. They've been waiting for you all day. They were waiting at 3 in the morning while you slept. They'll wait until somebody else with the same number arrives, or until somebody picks them, or until the building itself disappears. You haven't thought about any of this in years. You haven't needed to. The brass remembers the number. The lock remembers the brass. Every time you slide the key into the slot, 2 ancient mechanical systems read each other in less than a second and decide whether you live there. Most metal objects you carry are inert. Coins, jewelry, screws sit in pockets without doing anything. This piece of brass is different. Entirely. This one talks to your house every day. It was talking to your house this morning, and it will talk to your house tonight when you come home. The thing in your pocket is a passport written in metal. That's one of them. There's a whole channel of stories like it. The buried histories of objects in your pocket. Subscribe to The Reason Why, and the next one finds you.